a beautiful day
Was
in the
that
neighborhood.
I did a little pause.
Yeah, I liked that.
You did.
All
Alright, good to see you.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Oh.
Can you get a little bit
Okay.
closer to him?
So this is Chris. Chris is in sales, and we've talked about. Wait a minute. Can't have that. Move it back up when the time comes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about several concerns that he has.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing Bellafill today. So obviously, Chris is. Do you mind if I say your age?
No, go ahead.
You said 44, right?
44, yeah.
44. So Chris is 44. Obviously looks younger than 44. So we had thought about doing a kit of Bellafill today, which is 5 syringes. I suspect we're not going to need to do that because our goals for today, as we discussed, is to fill in this little flattened area a little bit. That's one of the first places that ages, on women too, but on men's faces for sure. So filling that in, even if we do it subtly, makes the face look a lot more youthful, and you'll see that as we do it.
Yeah.
So we talked about doing that. I think that's one of our main goals for today. We talked about softening these little lines, what we call the nasolabial folds, a little bit with some Bellafill, and maybe just a little fill around the edges of the lower lip here where it's starting to crease a bit. And that's about it. I don't think there's a whole lot we need to do.
Okay.
And one of the things that we've discussed, and I think I've discussed in videos before, is that particularly with men, less is more.
Agreed. Yeah.
Less is more because it's just men don't need that much correction. The aesthetics for men's faces are different, and also, and this applies to women too, the nice thing about Bellafill is it lasts so long that we don't have to feel the pressure to do it all at once. We could do some today, and if for whatever reason it ends up being insufficient, a few months from now we could do more, and we could build it and sort of sculpt to where we want to be.
Alright.
Any questions for me before we get started?
No, I don't think
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, we've already numbed up your face with numbing cream, and we've already
Cleaned it.
antiseptic everything, so we're ready to go. Okay. I'm the only. All right. All right. There you go. This is the part I call putting on the gloves and the glasses. Because I'm putting on the gloves and the glasses.
Fascinating.
I like to do that. Put on the left glove with my right hand and then vice versa. Okay, so have you put your head back against the cushion, and we'll get started. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I've gone right into the flattest spot, and that's where I'm injecting first, because that's where we're going to get our most effect and sort of most bang for the buck. So whenever we're using fillers, we always want to maximize the effect that we're getting out of it. So particularly if someone's on a budget, we can get the most out of a fewer number of syringes. So you can already see what that did. There was that little flattened triangle there, it's already gone. And I've used, I don't know, a tenth of a syringe. And just a little more fullness right there.
So at what age would someone need to be taking a look at a product like Bellafill?
Well, I think it's, I don't know that the age for Bellafill is necessarily different from other fillers. So, we do fillers on people starting in their 20s, really. It's not so much for aging at that point as it's just to correct, almost to correct bone structure. But Bellafill does maybe skew a little bit older, because as we get older we need, more filler to do the things we want to do. And as you get into a situation where you need more filler, then Bellafill, something like Bellafill makes more sense because you don't have to do it as often. If we're getting into a situation where we're talking about 5 to 10 syringes of filler, if you're doing that with some of the standard fillers that are going to last 6 months to a year, that gets pretty costly. But if you do it with Bellafill, where we're doing it, I don't know, every 3 years, every 5 years, something like, maybe more, that makes a lot more sense.
And is it okay to get Bellafill injected in an area that was previously injected with another dermal filler?
Well, I mean, the short answer is yes. I would be hesitant to put it in an area where there's been recently other fillers put in, just because we don't know what we're dealing with, and then the other fillers go away and the Bellafill is left behind, and you're not really sure what the contour is going to be. So sometimes in those situations, if we really need to, we can dissolve other fillers and do the Bellafill, or we just wait them out. And when the time comes to re-inject, then we switch to Bellafill. Okay, so let's see here. Good. Okay, let's move to the other side. That's already gotten a lot of correction. Again, it's like
How are you doing, Chris?
not even a
Doing
third.
good.
Not
Doing
even a
good.
third of the syringe time. I'm going to change out the needle a little bit. Needles.
You kind of feel
Can
like
get
going in
filled
there and
pretty
filling up
fast.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine. How soon do you typically see results?
Oh, you're going to see results right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's,
Impressive.
you know, Bellafill is a collagen base that it sits in, so the collagen gives you immediate results. And then if that goes away, the Bellafill product takes over and you form your own collagen.
Okay.
What other areas of the body can be treated with Bellafill?
You know, pretty much anywhere. You can actually do it on the body itself. So all over the face, on the body. Generally, most people will not use it in. It can be used in the lips, but most people will not. It tends to be a little too thick a filler for lips, but most other places you can do it. So, I mean, you can do cellulite treatment and buttock enlargement with Bellafill, although, you know, as doing that with any filler, it just tends to get costly because of the amount you have to use. But we do temples, foreheads, cheeks, nasolabial folds, where these are called the marionette lines. I do chin augmentation, jaw augmentation. It's incredibly versatile.
How's it looking?
Really good. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I was, yeah.
I,
I tend to go back and forth a lot while I'm doing this, sort of putting in small amounts.
What do you find the patient satisfaction rate is at a year or two?
Well, I could give you a number. I mean, it's very high. Most people who start getting Bellafill continue to get Bellafill. You know, we add areas, so. And the general comment that we see is that most people are really surprised. I mean, even though we tell them it's going to last years, they're surprised, like at a year and a half, when it's basically all still there. That may be all we need for there. Maybe just a tiny little bit right over here.
Can you use Bellafill for a non-surgical rhinoplasty?
You can. I'll be honest, I haven't done it. You gotta treat injection in the nose very, very carefully because the skin is tight there, and there have been instances where it causes some damage to the skin, not specifically Bellafill, but any filler. So, but I know people do it. I personally have no experience with it.
How are you doing, Chris?
Doing fine.
Do you feel anything?
Yeah, you can feel the needle going in. That's, about it. A little prick when it breaks the skin.
And you've never had any dermal fillers or anything done before,
No,
have you?
no.
Any injections?
Any injections? I've had toxins injected before, but not a filler. So, but I've seen the lines get deeper and deeper the older I've gotten. So this is, so I'll be excited to see what it looks like.
So the lines on this side are a little deeper than the other side.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that.
Do you sleep on this side? Do you sleep
Mm-hmm.
this side face down?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you see that.
That's interesting. Is there any restrictions after this?
Well, generally I would recommend that you don't work out for 24 hours afterwards.
Okay.
Generally this isn't an issue for guys, but if you're putting on makeup, do it gently for the first 24 to 48 hours. But, washing your face, anything, you just want to be gentle. And if you can avoid sleeping face down, some people just naturally roll into that position.
Okay.
And you can avoid that way. Just a couple of nights on that.
Okay.
In theory, pressure on this could move it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's very easy for that to happen, but we give those precautions.
Sounds good. Usually bruising to the area after?
Can be.
Okay.
That's usually it swells, but not much.
Okay.
Bruising is variable. So usually there's so I'd say the rarest thing would be either no bruising or very extensive bruising. Light to moderate bruising, probably pretty common. It's kind of hard to put a needle in the face this many times and not get any bruises. You can probably attest to how many times it is at this point.
So a lot of patients call into the office curious about Bellafill, but a little skeptical of the product because of online reviews about granulomas. Can you address that?
Well, I can tell you about my personal experience, and that's I haven't seen a single one in several years of using this and using it fairly extensively. I think they can happen. They can happen with other fillers as well. That's not good. Give me 1 second.
No, I didn't know if you needed me to.
So we've had virtually no problems in several years of using Bellafill. So yeah, it's out there. It exists. It's not particularly likely, and in my experience, the advantages of what we get, which consists of, look at this, we're not even 1.5 syringes into this. We fully corrected the cheeks. I'm almost done on the nasolabial folds. We're probably gonna end up using 2 syringes in total, and this is gonna last for years. You're hard pressed. Be really hard pressed to come up with a better value in fillers than this. And like I've said, we've experienced no significant complications. think I've said this before. I mean, I trust it enough that I have it in my face. So
He's fully loaded.
fully loaded. Yeah, I'm actually over 100 years old.
He's the original Bellafill.
I've been alive since the 13th century. There we go. That looks good.
I think too, as guys, you know, we're pretty lazy. We work out at the gym, worry about our bodies, but the face sometimes we tend to forget, and just something that lasts that long, that's amazing. And then,
Well, it's great for guys because again, it's one of those things you can do in small increments. So it's subtle changes that no one notices as they're happening, which is usually a plus for guys. You don't want to show up at work necessarily looking dramatically different from one day to the next. But, you know, one of the things that struck me when I started using this is, you know, when you're injecting it, you can't see how long it's going to last. I mean, you just have to see that over time. But the thing that you do notice is compared to, I think, every other filler I've used, and that's pretty much everything, as you inject this, for every little amount that you inject, you see more result. It's just more effective.
It looks really good.
You can literally watch like the little indentations pop out as you do this. It doesn't tend to do that with other fillers. At least not as dramatically. I mean, look, we just smoothed that completely. So to have this sort of fine control over what you're doing and at the same time have it so long lasting is pretty powerful.
If a patient is considering fat grafting or Bellafill for facial rejuvenation, which would you recommend and why?
You know, I think that's a case-by-case thing, but I can tell you, I think there are more circumstances where I would favor this over the fat grafting. Fat grafting is a little bit cumbersome because you've got to extract the fat from somewhere else, somewhere else in the body. So there's basically at least a mini liposuction procedure associated with it. So that takes more time and it's more expensive. And fat, unlike this, is unpredictable because fat has to, the second you take the fat out, getting it ready for injection, it starts to die. You inject it, some of it's going to survive, some of it isn't. And you never know going in how much it's going to be in any one case. So that makes fine sculpting like this virtually impossible. So there's two approaches that doctors take in terms of injecting fat. One is to overfill to compensate for what you think you're going to lose, which I think is a terrible idea because if you get a really strong take on it that day, now you're going to have something that looks weird. So the other approach, which is what I do when I inject fat, is we simply go with the idea that we're probably going to have to do it in increments multiple times. Well, with fat, that's a bit of a pain for the patient because it's much more of a procedure. So given that we now have a filler that lasts for years and works this well, I'm harder pressed to come up with good reasons to do fat. And that's it. 2 syringes, that's it.
Looks good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. So I'll show you. Can we grab the hand mirror and I'll show you what we've done.
Okay.
And if for some reason you don't like it, try not to look ick on camera. All right. So just softened all of this, filled this in. Remember how it had like a flat triangle there? That's gone. So you showed me those pictures of you in your 30s. I think we look a lot more like that now.
Yeah, definitely.
Then softened and evened these out a little bit. This one's still a little deeper than this one.
For sure.
But they're both a lot less noticeable. And then filled in that little hollow right there and a little bit over here. You had some deeper sort of wrinkles right there that I filled with it. And there we go. So
you can really tell. I can tell on this side. Not as depressed, like you said, but yeah.
Yeah.
And in the eyes,
So, you know, to me, you look younger, you look better, but it's not the kind, you know, people might notice that you look different or you look, you know, they might think something is up, but they won't figure out what it is.
No,
I think most people would be hard pressed to figure out, to know that you got filler done.
Yeah, and I think the fact that I don't have to come back into the office to take time out of work, you know, or don't have to come back in 3 months, you know, I think as a guy we look for excuses why not to do things, and if this can be done kind of a one-time thing for a couple of years.
And forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure.
All right, yes, sir. Thank you.
That was a sweet ending.
Right.
It's like the best